What's up, everyone? This is the next video in a series in which we break down the pros and cons of the candidates for the Knicks head coaching job. The Knicks interviewed Kidd for the second time last week, and it supposedly went extremely well. Last video, we broke down the pros and cons of Mark Jackson, and today we're going to analyze the pros and cons of Jason Kidd. Before we continue, please like the video and subscribe, as your support is much appreciated. Jason Kidd is undeniably one of the greatest point guards of all time. Before he became a coach, he was an NBA point guard for 19 seasons. Ironically, in his last playing years, he was a member of the Knicks, where he played a veteran role in the Knicks winning 54 games and finishing as the second seed in the East. Throughout Kidd's career, he made 10 All-Star teams, 5 All-NBA first teams, 4 All-NBA defensive teams, and he became a champion with the Dallas Mavericks back in 2011. Throughout Kidd's career, he was the definition of a true floor general. He saw the floor extremely well, and when someone was open, Kidd got the ball to them fast. Kidd was able to get to the basket at will, and he was excellent at finding the open man when he collapsed the defense. His elite level of playmaking landed him at number 2 on the all-time assist list, right under Stockton. After Kidd retired, it didn't take long for him to become a head coach. He became the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets during the 2013 to 2014 season. That team underachieved, considering the championship expectations they had after the Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade. The Nets got off to a really bad 10-21 start that year, but after some adjustments Kidd made, the Nets finished the year with 44 wins and got all the way to the second round of the playoffs. After that season, the Nets let Kidd go to the Bucks because Kidd wanted too much power over the team. Under Kidd, the Bucks went from being the worst team in the league to a playoff team, but the Bucks fired Kidd and replaced him with Mike Budenholzer in 2018, and ever since then, they've been a legit title contender. Now Jason Kidd is looking to coach again, and he's one of 11 candidates that the Knicks are looking into. The pros of hiring Jason Kidd is that he has a strong player development history, especially with Giannis, and he helped the Bucks to speed up their rebuild fast. The cons of hiring Kidd was his failure to adjust the Bucks defense, his resistance to modern basketball in the Bucks, and his lack of experience coaching a title contender. When Kidd inherited the Bucks, they were an awful 15-win team. The next year, they made a 26-win jump and won 41 games while finishing with the 6th seed in the East. A huge part of that growth was the development of the young players on the roster. Jason Kidd's best player development success story is easily Giannis. When Giannis first came in the league, he was just a skinny, inexperienced 18-year-old, and 5 years later, he became one of the most dominant forces in the league and a legit MVP candidate. A huge part of this was Kidd's coaching, as he turned Giannis into the Bucks' main ball handler. At first, Giannis struggled with his role, but after he gained more experience along with getting a lot bigger and stronger, he became one of the most unstoppable players in the league. Giannis is an athletic 7-footer with ball handling skills. He's impossible to keep out of the paint, and very few big men can stop Giannis when they challenge him at the rim. It's the main reason he's so efficient. Giannis definitely worked hard to get to where he is, but Kidd's usage of Giannis as a point guard played a huge role in him becoming the dominant player that he is today. Jason Kidd and Giannis still have a strong relationship to this day, and it's believed by some that hiring Kidd would increase the odds that Giannis will sign with the Knicks in 2021. As a side note, hiring Kidd as bait to land Giannis is a really bad idea. Just because Giannis has a strong relationship with Kidd doesn't mean he'll sign here. The Bucks have been a legit contender for the past 2 years, so chances are he stays with the Bucks. And even if he doesn't, there will be other teams like the Raptors and the Heat that will have a much better team situation than the Knicks. The Knicks hired Fizdale because he was considered a player's coach, and we all know how that went in terms of their free agency pursuit. The next player development success story under Kidd I want to talk about is Chris Middleton. Middleton is a 2-time All-Star, but he's come a long way. Middleton was actually drafted by the Pistons with the 39th pick in the 2012 draft. He didn't play much for the Pistons in his rookie year, and he became a throw-in a trade that sent Brandon Jennings to the Pistons for Brandon Knight. In Milwaukee, Chris Middleton improved significantly and became an all-star level player and legit second option behind Giannis. Malcolm Brogdon is another young player who thrived under Kidd's coaching. He won the Rookie of the Year in 2016 and continued to show significant growth year after year. Now, these players definitely grinded to get where they are today, but Jason Kidd did a good job of putting them in a position to succeed. The Knicks are still a young rebuilding team themselves. A coach like Jason Kidd that will help guys like RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson to maximize their potential is exactly what they need. The Knicks are also about to add a young talent in the upcoming draft. It's speculated by many that the Knicks will end up drafting LaMelo Ball. But they could easily also end up with another point guard like Killian Hayes. If we do draft that point guard, hiring a head coach that is one of the greatest point guards in league history would do wonders for that rookie. The last pro I want to talk about with Jason Kidd is that he helped to rebuild the Bucks extremely fast. As stated before, the Bucks were a total bottom feeder before Jason Kidd joined as head coach. Before that season, the Bucks were a pretty mediocre team in the East. They did make the playoffs with Monta Ellis and Brandon Jennings in 2013, but they barely squeezed into the playoffs as an 8th seed. In Kidd's first season, the Bucks went from having the worst record in the league to a 500 record and the 6th seed in the East. This major growth was not only due to some strong player growth, but Jason Kidd improving the Bucks defense to second in defensive efficiency in the league. While the Bucks missed the playoffs the next year, they were right back in the playoff picture the year afterwards, winning 42 games and finishing as the 6th seed in the East. In 2018, Jason Kidd was fired after a mediocre 23-22 start, and the Bucks hired Mike Budenholzer. The difference with Budenholzer coaching was night and day, as the very next season, the Bucks finished with the number 1 seed and got to the conference finals. While Kidd couldn't make the Bucks a dominant team, he helped the team to achieve a very quick rebuild. They were able to make the playoffs 1 season into his coaching, while some teams spend years stuck in the basement despite years of high lottery picks. The Knicks have been a very mediocre team since 2013. A coach like Kidd that can help the young players grow and get the Knicks into the playoffs will be a breath of fresh air for this franchise. At this point, we're going to start talking about the cons. One of the biggest cons of Jason Kidd was his unwillingness to adjust the Bucks defense. Now, his first year, the Bucks had the number 2 defense in the league. The reason for this was because the Bucks implemented an aggressive style of defense where the Bucks would trap ball handlers in the pick and roll. The idea behind this defense is that it would lead to bad passes and turnovers. This style of defense also required a lot of communication and strong rotations. It was a scheme that fit the roster as the Bucks had a lot of long, lanky defenders in Giannis and Chris Middleton. Eventually, the league adjusted to this defensive scheme, but Kidd did adjust back, and as a result, the Bucks became one of the worst defensive teams in the league. This is evidenced in the fact that the Bucks were towards the bottom in defensive efficiency every year after that first year of finishing second in defensive efficiency. Part of being a good coach is knowing how to make adjustments, and Kidd refused to do so. So this is one of the main reasons he was fired. Now the Bucks are number 1 in defensive efficiency this year, and this is in large part due to the fact that Budenholzer simplified the Bucks defense. Instead of trapping the ball handler, the Bucks use drop coverage, meaning the big man drops back in the pick and roll to protect the paint, and as a result, the Bucks have been the best defense in the league under Bud. The next con we're going to talk about with Kidd was his resistance to institute a modern offense on the Bucks. Along with defense, Jason Kidd's coaching of the Bucks offense was also problematic, and this was in large part due to Kidd's refusal to run a modern offense. Jason Kidd went away from the three-point shot and directed guys to shoot in the mid-range. That just isn't how basketball is played in 2020. In all 4 of Kidd's seasons with the Bucks, they ranked 25th or worse in three-point attempts a game. The three-pointer was just simply not an emphasis. In 2 full years under Budenholzer, though, the Bucks ranked 2nd and 4th in three-point attempts a game. The uptick in three-point attempts have also coincided with the Bucks becoming one of the best offensive teams in the league. Jason Kidd played a significant role in developing Milwaukee's core, but the style of basketball he was having them play just wasn't conducive to success. The Knicks don't need a head coach that's going to run an antiquated system. They need a coach that knows how to win games in the modern NBA. The last major con of hiring Kidd is his lack of experience coaching a team that's a title contender. While most of Kidd's teams were playoff teams, none of them were anything more than a middle of the pack playoff team. Much of that is related to Kidd's coaching ability or lack thereof. After Kidd was fired and replaced with Coach Budenholzer, the Bucks went from a 44-win team to a 60-win team. Now the Bucks did add Brook Lopez, but much of that was Budenholzer just being a much better coach than Kidd is, and switching up the team's schemes on both ends of the floor to make for a winning team in a modern NBA. So there you have it, Knicks fans. Those are the pros and cons of a potential Kidd hiring. My personal take is that the Knicks could do a lot better than Kidd. He's good for development, but overall a very mediocre coach. I think Kidd would be a great addition to the coaching staff though. He will be great for working with the young players to improve their game, but I think he will be a bad choice as a head coach. But with that said, tell me what you guys think. Is hiring Kidd a good choice? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and sub and enjoy the rest of your day.